We're going to bring Zach in after a quick word from FanDuel. Guys, the NFL season is here. FanDuel has a new offer for new customers that you certainly don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Zach, I got the first question for you because I need to make sure it gets asked, but Myles Garrett was not at the open portion of practice yesterday. He was listed as limited, which means he came out after media left. Is there any reason to be concerned about Myles Garrett moving forward? Do you have any idea why he wasn't out there at the first part of practice?
Zero. It's the third time he's done it, and it's week 7. So when Myles wants a day off, Myles gets a day off. So they've listed him as elbow limited. Last time it was ankle. He took the full day off. So no. Generally, you don't worry about any injury report until Friday. Obviously, it is different with Myles Garrett, but he takes days off, and he's loud. Yeah, he needs to get back in the sack race, right, for this team to have any chance. But I would imagine, the fact that he didn't take the whole day off makes it even less concern.
Zach, this may be, I said it may be the first time in the 14 years I've been covering the team that the Browns' opponent might actually be more dysfunctional than the Browns. Is this a first for you too?
Well, I would, that's a contest we would have to really go in depth on, Bull, to know that.
That's true.
Miami's not very good, right? And why aren't they very good? The quarterback isn't very good. The offensive line isn't very good. The drafting hasn't been very good. Sound familiar? Right.
Yes,
so just 2 years ago, they won 11 games and were in the playoffs and got swiftly bounced from the playoffs. Last year, they weren't very good, but they still won 8 games. And then this year, they haven't stopped the run. They haven't tackled anybody. They've been in games, but they faltered late last week. They got beat, with 27 seconds left or something like that. So, they're a lot less scary team without Tyreek Hill. And clearly, with Tua, felt like he needed to address what went on. There's also a reason he felt like he needed to say what he said, right, to lead to addressing what went on. So, this is a game the Browns have to win. And the Browns have to get to their simple formula, which is run the ball and play defense, one of which completely disappeared last week, right? And one of which I thought the defense played like a group that was really tired from the travel and had a starter traded at 11 o'clock last Wednesday night.
Yep.
Zach, when you look at these, obviously where both teams is at, and you look at these head coaches on both teams, is this one of those ones where the loser might lose their job on Monday?
I think anytime you're asking that question, Tyvis, right, I think it's fair to ask. So I really don't believe that the Browns would fire the coach. And look, I think we all believed, except you, Tyvis, with your 9-win prediction, that they would be 1-5 right now.
8, and it's still in play. Don't do that.
This guy. By the way, the most games the Browns have ever won since after starting 1-5 in a season is 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the schedule says they can win that many. But when you look at the reality of the situation, they are playing for next year. You don't trade starters in early October if you aren't playing for next year, right? Regardless of the situation. So all that being said, and the numbers being what they are, it just looks bad. Last week was as pathetic as it's ever looked, right? Like to go in there and throw that many passes and have the Steelers look like they know where you're going every single time, right? Like it was bad. And to have the Steelers on offense just take 2 yards at a time because they knew they didn't need more than that, right? Except in certain situations. So if they lose this game and the offense gets flattened again, anything's on the table, but I don't think there's any intention of that. And I think the fact that we're talking about it, whether it's in mid-October or a month ago or 4 months ago, says it all. The Dolphins won 8 games last year and they're a dysfunctional mess. The Browns started last year with the most expensive roster in the history of the NFL, won 3 games, and this team so far is worse.
True. Yeah, I guess, Zach, at what point, I get that, we talk about we want to identify and we want to evaluate. But when does the front office have an evaluation on the front office and the coach? Do they have do they have a blanket carte blanche to, evaluate players and all these other things, but the play on the field, does that matter to them?
Well, it has to matter. I get what you're asking, Garrett, and there's some gray area there that we don't know, right? Because there's so much disappointment with the play on the field. They clearly had a good start to the draft. This clearly is a defense that's capable of keeping you in games and winning some games. And if it doesn't win 2 or 3 more yourself, then you're going to win 2 or 3 games again, right? But the way Jerry Jeudy is playing, I mean, he's embarrassing himself and the franchise and the guys that signed him every single week. There's no other way to say that, right? Yeah. To drop the quarterback back 65 times last week, and the only reason that wasn't bloodier is because the Steelers kept committing penalty after penalty. You know, Jerry Jeudy ranks 79th of 85 eligible receivers. When you stretch it out in PFF to 126 receivers that have played a certain number of snaps, Bond is in the bottom 10. Thrash is in the bottom 10. Like, these guys don't belong on the field. No. And then Njoku's not going to play this week, so it's going to be even worse. So, yeah, I mean, are you playing for the future? Sure. Does the reality of what you did in April and what you've shown in September show that? Sure. But where are you really going? What are you building here? Because it looks really bad. And I don't see improvement. I saw last week as bad as it's been.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You mentioned Njoku not playing this week. Is Conklin also out?
I mean, in the concussion protocol, you don't know. It is different for every guy, both in terms of how they recover and what their baseline is to get to that next stage. You know, probably if he doesn't practice today, then he's probably out. So that brings Cornelius Lucas back from 2 weeks as a healthy scratch, probably back to right tackle. I don't know that you could start Livingston. So that's probably how that one goes. Again, and Njoku might practice tomorrow and he might play. You know, we don't think it's a serious injury, but I think it's going to be a 1-week injury. But you don't know. And look, these are desperate times. So the bigger question with Njoku is, can he get healthy and come back and post another game? Oh, I guess they only have one more game before the bye week, so that's one more game before the trade deadline to see what the situation with him might be.
Right now, I think you could put a mannequin at right tackle, and it would be just as effective as what the Browns have put there.
It's been bad. It's been bad. And when you think about it, they finished it last week with Leviston at right. Yeah. You know, he's been the backup at left, and Tevin Jenkins had to come in and play left because Robinson got hurt. So Robinson did not have a brace after the game, did not have a brace yesterday in the locker room. He was a limited practice participant. He's going to play, you know, barring a setback. But, yeah, then you have to start Lucas or Leviston back, and then maybe you have to bring up Thayer Munford from the practice squad just in case.
Go Bucks.
Zach, what's your reaction to what Mike Tomlin had to say about Andrew Berea on Monday?
Well, I laughed for sure. Look, he knew the question was coming. He wanted the question to come, but I did not know that he was going to call out Andrew Berea at the start of his answer. Right?
Wild.
And so it's wild because you don't hear it. It's how he felt, and he felt like my team is supposed to have a win, and the Bengals are supposed to rot this year, and you guys gave them a lifeline. That is how he felt about it. So I think people have dove too far into it in terms of was he defending Stefanski, what he was doing. Mike Tomlin wanted the question answered. And Mike Tomlin said Andrew Berea must be smarter than me or us, and that's how he wanted to say it. So we'll find out tonight what his level of anger is, you know. Yeah. And every team has its own issues right now and its own worries and its own guys that they wish they could get rid of or felt better about their depth. It's to me, this is just how this looks right now. And that's why I'm not fully in agreement with Jason or others who say, look, they're going to ride this out. Because if it doesn't get a little bit better and you don't see some progress, I don't know how you could ride it out on either front, coaching or front office. And to me, I keep saying it, the construction is worse than the coaching, and the coaching has been bad.
Zach, you mentioned some trade deadline approaching. It's in a couple weeks now. What do you think the likelihood that some of these other guys get moved? We've already seen Andrew Berea make 2 trades, but Njoku, some of the other veteran offensive linemen, where do you get the sense that they are right now with those guys?
Yeah, my gut is to say there'll be 1 or 2 more trades. I think teams have flipped into the mode. I think last year there were 12 trades across the league in the last week before the deadline. There were 18 trades total from mid-October until the deadline, which was kind of the same day on the calendar. Obviously, the Browns have some older guys, and the Browns have a bunch of guys who aren't under contract for next year. Most of their roster, right? At least half of the active roster is not under contract for next year. So I want to say not a clear fire sale, but let's see how Sunday goes, and let's see what's available. I mean, the thing with Teller and Njoku and these guys is they have dead money that the Browns have to decide on. They're either going to swallow it next year, or they're going to re-sign them and adjust it and push it to further years with the cap keep going up, which has been their strategy, right? But if the right trade offer comes and you make the trade and accelerate that into next year, then you just put that in their planning. So the Greg Newsome trade was to bring a starter back and put a guy what his contract number is next year, right? So that's all this is. Like, if Alex Wright isn't going to get extended by the Browns, then the Browns should trade Alex Wright. If somebody calls and offers anything for Jerome Ford, the Browns should trade Jerome Ford because they've committed to the other guys. So I feel very confident that one or two moves are going to happen. But when you talk about Njoku and Teller, it's more complicated than that. And maybe they want to bring back Alex Wright and then a year from now move on from Isaiah McGuire, right? So all of these things are kind of tied together. And I don't think you want to get rid of veteran offensive linemen. But if you don't think they're going to come back, and last week you started 5 offensive linemen who don't have a contract for 2025, all of whom are 30 years old, then you have to make some decisions. And if the deadline being in 2.5 weeks forces those decisions, then that's the reality of the situation.
When you look at these trade deadlines, obviously you talked about the guys that's being moved out of it. Is there any way, because me and G looked at our receivers and it's nasty. It's bad. It's worse than I thought. Like I thought it was bad, but like when you go back and watch the all 22, it's even worse than you think. It is. I seen like there's people like Chris Olave's or Jalen Waddle. We have any chance of even trying to get somebody like that to bring in this year, or is this something that we have to wait until they draft and all of those things? Do we have the cap room to handle it?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing to do is look at the Tyson Campbell deal, right? Why did they see him? He fell out of favor in Jacksonville. He's a man-to-man corner. They're playing zone. Like, I think the Browns are certainly looking at situations where guys have maybe fallen out and maybe are under contract. You would think that a veteran, just like average at best wide receiver, would be a priority for this team just to stabilize things, just to catch the ball and run to the right place. Like, does that ball bouncing off Isaiah Bond's helmet at the last week at the 2-yard line, like, does that sum up the season or what? Right?
Yes,
so
it does.
It could be and should be a priority, Tyvis. What's really available, I don't know. I mean, right? The big report was they're out shopping for an offensive tackle. Well, they found Cam Robinson. How's that going?
Not great.
Yeah. I just as you were talking, the receiver core is so nasty. I just got rid of Jamari Thrash for a backup tight end off the Giants. So I was like, yeah, you're right. It's really nasty work. Let me tell you this. Let me ask you this. Jason said something earlier this year. He said, this is a 2-year Deshaun Watson cleanse. Let me tell you something. When I seen them receivers last night and these offensive linemen, they don't need no cleanse. They need a complete colonoscopy. They need to get see your doctors. This is examinations, the male 45 and over examination, if you know what I mean. They need a complete. I'm like, this ain't 2 years, because I'm sitting here like I'm looking at the line, and we keep talking about these tackles, and I hate drafting linemen. Trust me, I'm the splash guy. I don't like no linemen, and I'm fat and big. I don't like that work. But if I would be hard pressed not to go into this draft and be like, hey, give me this tackle and that tackle at 2 in the top 15, and that to me that would be sacrilege a couple of years ago. But I'm tired of talking about the tackle stuff. They can't field a team if they're going to play like that with these guys. How long do you believe that this is going to take to get them back to a point where when they took over, they had Chubb 24 and Baker 25 and Denzel 24 and Myles? Well, how long is this going to take?
Well, the quarterback thing's been going on since they cut Bernie in 1992, Garrett. So if you look at next year and you look at having the 3rd pick in the draft or the 5th pick in the draft, I mean, don't you have to take a tackle based on how it currently is, right?
Yeah.
You have to.
I drive my 14-year-old to school every day, and every day he asks me, do you think the Browns can draft Carnell Tate? And I say no, because he doesn't play tackle or quarterback.
Wow.
Right?
Man.
So, this is a bad situation. And for them, look, Schlesinger's really good, and Graham, I think, is going to be a really solid pick. And the foundation of that all made sense, and Judkins is already good. But for them to not draft a tackle, so like this is what's come on, right? You're obviously playing for next year. The rookies look good, but you're even as good as they look. Harold Fannin, right? I mean, he might get 12 targets this week with Njoku probably out. You're already saying, okay, that was good, but how in the world could you draft 2 running backs and 2 quarterbacks when this is your offensive line? Right. And again, like, they're all older. They're all not under contract. Luke Whippler is under contract, but he's a backup. That's what he is. Some of them have dead money. And you have to. You have to address it multiple times in the draft, and for it to not be done, and for KT Leviston to be playing for you, it's malpractice. It just is.
Yeah, and Zach, even on top of that, beyond the fact that they didn't draft any quarterbacks and or any offensive linemen or wide receivers, they've shown no ability to, especially those two positions, wide receiver and offensive line. They've shown no ability when they have drafted them to evaluate quality talent at those positions. So even if they do draft them next year, if it's the same guys, I don't have a lot of faith they're going to get it right.
Right. Zach Zenter's been active for one game on the worst offense we've seen. Right.
Yeah.
So that's bad. It's really, really bad. And so, look, maybe run blocking will help. We're looking at weather and wind, and obviously getting away from whatever last week's game plan was and giving it to Judkins. So maybe they'll just buckle down, and it'll be a vintage Bitonio and Teller game, and you really shouldn't need to get to even 18, which they haven't been able to, right? So maybe it'll be that. And we know that stadium can be its own weather system. And we know Quinshon Judkins should be fresh because he didn't play much last week. So we'll see what happens. Maybe you can get that temporary fix and maybe spin some confidence forward. But I completely understand what you're saying, Garrett, when you're like, look, you can't point forward at all and project anything with this offense, receiver, or quarterback without knowing some sort of comfort in the offensive line, and there's just none there right now.
Yeah.
You talk about the offensive line. I know you've seen Bill and Brian Callahan got relieved of their duties. What is the relationship between Kevin and Bill? I know I seen him say he talked to Brian, but he hasn't talked to Bill. Is it a chance that we could see them maybe coming to help this staff just for a little bit or something like that?
I think a chance. I think it's probably rare in season. It happened with Hugh Jackson, and that was one of the most backwards things ever. If Bill stepped away, it was, he doesn't need the money, right? Maybe he wants to come in and help, but I don't know that Bill can actually play tackle. I think he can just coach them. So I would be surprised if it happens this season, Tyvis. Now, if Kevin Stefanski's the coach next year, and if Bill Callahan still wants to coach, maybe you can work something out. But they made the first assistant coaching hire they made was Mike Bloomgren, and because he got fired from his college job last year, that was done before the season even ended. So you invest in him and go. It's a fair talking point, and I would just say that's where we are, right? You're week 7 of the season, and you're talking about maybe could we bring back Bill Callahan? I'm not joking at you. I'm just saying that this is the situation because this offense has really been that bad. And week 13 last year is the last time they scored more than 17 points.
Zach, you think Brian Callahan ends up back in Cincinnati in the offseason or no?
If they're there, right? That's how the Bengals do it with that loyalty. But I don't know that group will be there. So that's the other thing.
They might actually fire
Tomlin.
Zach Taylor?
They might. That's the other thing with Tomlin. He certainly doesn't want Andrew Berry fired. He doesn't want Zach Taylor fired.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so that's what made those comments extra interesting.
Yeah, no, that's true. I don't think he wants either of them fired because Zach Taylor stinks. And so does Andrew Berry. All right, Zach, we appreciate it. As always, man, we'll talk to you again soon. Well, I'll talk to you on my podcast tomorrow, but we'll talk to you later.
Yep. I'll see you guys next Thursday. I'll be back in. Yep. Thank you, guys.
Sounds good.